father forces his daughter to marry a powerful politician, but what she does next will shock the world. What happens when a young woman is forced into an unthinkable marriage, one that threatens to steal her freedom, her identity, and her very future? What if, instead of succumbing to the chains placed upon her, she takes control of her own fate, and in doing so, shatters the lives of everyone around her? In today's video, we dive deep into a story of power, control, and defiance. A father, desperate to secure his family's future, forces his daughter into a marriage with a powerful, ruthless politician. On the surface, this union seems like a simple transactional arrangement, a deal that will bring wealth and influence to his family. But as we soon learn, nothing is ever as it seems. The daughter, a woman with dreams and desires of her own, is caught in a web of deceit and manipulation. Her father's control over her life has always been absolute, but this time it goes too far. Instead of complying with her father's wishes and becoming a pawn in a game of political power, she makes a decision that changes everything. What unfolds is a series of shocking events that not only alter the lives of those involved, but also spark a nationwide scandal that no one saw coming. In the end, the stakes rise higher than anyone could have predicted. Lives are destroyed, reputations shattered, and the world watches in awe as a single woman's defiance becomes the ultimate power move. The camera pans across a grand, opulent mansion. The windows, towering and cold, overlook the sprawling city below. Inside, the air feels thick, heavy with anticipation. It's a night like any other for the elite, filled with business deals, whispered promises, and the constant hum of power. Yet, tonight is different. In a lavish room, a father stands before his daughter, the dim light casting sharp shadows across his face. His eyes are hard, unyielding, filled with an intensity that betrays a deep sense of urgency. His voice is calm, yet there's an undeniable undercurrent of command as he speaks. This is your chance, Eliza. You will marry him, and you will do it without question. This will secure our future, secure your future. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. The daughter, Eliza, stands across from him, her expression unreadable. She's beautiful, poised, but there's something behind her eyes, something more than the typical resigned obedience that might be expected. She's silent for a long moment, studying her father. His words cut deep, but not in the way he intends. It's not just the marriage itself that she resents. It's the years of control, the constant suffocation, the way he has molded her life to serve his own ambitions. Her father, too, feels the weight of this moment. He knows the stakes are high. The politician, a man of immense power, has made an offer he cannot refuse. If Eliza marries him, their family will rise to unparalleled heights. But at what cost? As the tension fills the air, Eliza's gaze shifts to the window, where the city lights blink like distant stars. The world outside seems so far removed from this suffocating room, and for a fleeting moment, she dreams of running, of escaping the cage that has defined her life. But that dream is quickly dashed by the harshness of reality. Do you understand, Eliza? Her father demands, his voice now sharp, as if a question is a command. Her response is calm, almost eerie in its composure. I understand. The father exhales, clearly relieved. Good. You'll marry him tomorrow, and everything will be fine. But as Eliza turns away to leave the room, a small, almost imperceptible smile plays at the corner of her lips. What if this marriage isn't just a sacrifice? What if it's the first step in a plan far more daring and dangerous than anyone could imagine? As Eliza steps into the hallway, her father's words still echoing in her ears, one thought lingers in her mind. This will be the last thing I do for him. The question isn't whether she'll marry the politician. No, the question is what she will do after the marriage. And that, my friends, is where the real story begins. Eliza's secret plans unknown and a deep sense of tension surrounding the choices she's about to make. What will she do next? Will she comply, or will she defy the fate her father has set for her? The story teeters on the edge of what is and what could be, setting up a powerful narrative that will captivate. The mansion sits high above the city, the skyline stretching out like an endless sea of lights. From the penthouse window, Eliza can see the pulse of the city below, the thrum of life that is so distant from the world inside these walls. The penthouse is cold and sterile, its sleek, modern design doing nothing to soften the oppressive silence that fills the air. Each step echoes off the polished marble floors as Eliza walks through the halls, the sharp lines of the furniture stark against the emptiness. There is no warmth here, no love, only the bitter reminder of the life her father has built for them, a life founded on control, manipulation, and power. Her father, Victor Moretti, stands near the grand fireplace, his back to her, staring into the flames with a look that can only be described as calculating. The flicker of the fire dances on his face, but there's no comfort in it, only the hard glint of a man who has spent his life orchestrating every detail, making sure nothing is left to chance. His thoughts are miles away, but his presence is as oppressive as ever. The room is filled with an unspoken tension, as if the walls themselves are bracing for something monumental. Eliza enters the room quietly, her eyes betraying none of the turmoil brewing inside her. She has learned to hide her feelings well, to wear the mask her father has taught her to wear, serene, composed, obedient. But beneath the surface, she is suffocating. She watches her father, her stomach knotting as she takes in the weight of what he is about to ask her. Victor turns, his sharp gaze locking onto hers. He doesn't speak immediately, but his eyes are filled with a quiet authority. It's the same look he's always had, the one that tells her she doesn't have a choice, that her life is not her own, that her body, her future, is something to be controlled, to be bargained away for his own gain. I trust you understand the importance of this marriage, Eliza. Victor's voice breaks the silence, cold and firm. Victor stands with an air of finality, his stance rigid, as though everything he says is set in stone. There's a heaviness to his words, a weight that threatens to suffocate the room. His life has been built on power, and now, his future, his legacy, depends on his daughter's compliance. He feels the grip of control slipping, though just slightly, and that realization gnaws at him. His hands tremble imperceptibly, but he hides it well. In his world, weakness is an unforgivable sin, and he will not allow himself to appear vulnerable. But deep down, there is something else, fear. Fear that Eliza will defy him. Fear that she won't be the obedient pawn he needs her to be. The looming marriage to Senator Thomas Graves, the influential politician with whom he has made an agreement, is his last move in securing his family's future. His heart races as he wonders if this will be the moment she finally breaks free. Eliza, on the other hand, is a bundle of tightly wound emotion. She feels trapped, suffocated by the life her father has imposed upon her. There is a coldness to her, a numbness that has grown over the years as she's learned to bear the weight of expectations and cruelty. Every step she takes in her father's shadow is a step further away from herself, her dreams, her desires, her very identity. But tonight, she feels something more than just resignation. There's a quiet resolve, a growing fire that she's been nursing for years. She's done playing the role of the obedient daughter. This marriage may have been decided for her, but Eliza has one last card to play, and it's a card that will change everything. The tension between them is palpable now, thickening with each passing second. Eliza can feel her father's gaze on her, probing, waiting for her response. She knows what he expects from her, a simple nod, a promise to do as she's told. But this time, she will not give it to him. Her voice is calm, but there's an undercurrent of something more, a quiet rebellion that can no longer be contained. I understand the importance of the marriage, she says softly, meeting his gaze without flinching. But I don't understand why it has to be me. Victor's eyes narrow, his jaw tightening. He steps closer, his voice lower now, a dangerous edge creeping in. Don't question me, Eliza. This is what's best for our family. For you. You will marry Senator Graves, and you will stand by his side, because I say so. You'll do your part, and we'll all benefit from it. His words feel like chains, but Eliza is no longer the girl who once obeyed without question. Her heart races, but this time, it's not fear that drives her, no, it's anger. She is not a tool for his political ambitions. She is not a pawn to be moved at his whim. You think I don't see what this is? Eliza's voice cracks just slightly, but there's fire in her eyes now. You think this is about family? About love? This is about power. Yours. This is about controlling me. And I won't let you. The words hang in the air like a challenge, a defiance that has been years in the making. Her father's face twists with anger. But there's a flicker of something else, something he's not used to seeing from her: resistance. The silence between them stretches, thick and heavy, as both of them stand at the edge of something they can't yet name. Victor feels his blood boil, his authority slipping from his grasp, but Eliza stands her ground. "You think you've won," she says quietly, "but I'm not the same girl I was when you first made me believe this life was mine to control. I won't be your puppet anymore." Victor's chest tightens, his breath quickening. He is losing her, and he can feel it. His control is slipping away, and he's not ready for it. He's always been in charge, always been the one who made the rules. And now, his daughter, his own flesh and blood, is standing in front of him, telling him she refuses to play by those rules. "You'll regret this, Eliza," he says, his voice low and dangerous. "You have no idea what you're up against." But Eliza just stares at him, her gaze unwavering. "No, you're the one who doesn't know who you're dealing with." And with that, she turns on her heel, walking toward the door. But as she opens it, she pauses and looks over her shoulder, her voice steady but full of defiance. "This is just the beginning. I'll make my own future, and nothing you do can change that." Characters' growing struggles. Victor's frustration is palpable, growing more intense with each passing day. The elegant dinner parties, the backroom deals, the endless meetings, all of it has started to feel like a farce. He's always prided himself on his ability to control situations, to pull the strings from behind the scenes. But Eliza's refusal to cooperate is eroding his sense of power, bit by bit. She is his daughter, his flesh and blood, and yet, for the first time, he feels completely powerless when it comes to her. Every time he sees her, something inside him twists with a mixture of anger and fear. He had expected obedience, compliance. He had expected that she would do what she had always done, follow his orders, smile sweetly for the cameras, and step into the life he had meticulously planned for her. But instead, she's become something he doesn't recognize. She challenges him, pushes back, refuses to be molded into the perfect political trophy wife. Victor has spent years building his empire, using people as pawns, bending them to his will. But Eliza is not like anyone else he has ever encountered. Her refusal to play by his rules unsettles him in ways he can't fully understand. It's as if she's taken the reins of the power struggle between them, and he doesn't know how to regain control. Eliza, on the other hand, feels as though she's fighting a war on two fronts. Her father is an unrelenting force, pushing her toward a future she wants no part of. And Senator Thomas Graves, the man she is supposed to marry, is no better. He's a charming politician, sure, but underneath the polished exterior lies a calculating, manipulative man who sees her only as a tool to further his career. Eliza knows this, and yet she's trapped in a web of her father's making, unable to break free. But as time passes, Eliza begins to realize something that fills her with both fear and determination. Her father is not invincible. His world, his empire, is built on lies, on manipulation, and now his foundation is cracking. He's losing control of her, and every attempt to bend her to his will only pushes her further away. The tension between father and daughter grows, the air heavy with unspoken words. Eliza begins to question everything about the life she's been forced into. She wonders if it's even possible to break free from her father's grip. The more she fights, the more she feels like she's losing herself. She feels like a puppet, her strings pulled by unseen hands, and with each passing day, it becomes harder to keep the mask of compliance in place. Her struggle isn't just against her father, it's against a system that has tried to define her, to make her a mere accessory to the men who hold power. She starts to wonder if there's a way to reclaim her future, to rewrite her story in a way that doesn't include her father's influence or Senator Graves' cold ambition. But the road to freedom is unclear, and the risks of defying her father are more dangerous than she could ever imagine. The day of the engagement party arrives, and with it, the tension reaches its breaking point. The grand ballroom is bathed in golden light, the air thick with the scent of roses and champagne. The who's who of the city are in attendance, politicians, business magnates, celebrities, all there to celebrate Victor's triumph, to toast to the merger of his family with the Graves dynasty. Eliza stands in the center of the room, her white gown a symbol of her role in this carefully orchestrated play. But beneath the facade of perfection, she's seething. Her father's grip on her life has never been more suffocating, and as she exchanges forced pleasantries with the people around her, her mind races with thoughts of escape. Senator Graves sidles up to her, his smile as smooth as ever, but Eliza feels nothing but disdain for the man. His polished exterior hides the predator beneath, and she knows that beneath his charming words, he sees her as little more than a trophy to add to his collection. She can feel his eyes on her, calculating, as he begins to speak. "You look beautiful, Eliza," Graves says, his voice low and smooth. "I'm sure you'll make a wonderful wife." The words are meant to soothe, to remind her of her place, but instead, they fuel the fire inside her. "I'm sure I will," she replies, her voice laced with sarcasm. After all, a woman's worth is measured by who she's married to, right? Graves doesn't flinch, his smile never wavering. "I'm sure your father has explained the importance of this marriage. Our alliance will secure your future, Eliza, and that's something worth being grateful for." Her eyes narrow, the resentment building. "Grateful? For being sold off like property?" He laughs softly, as if she's just made a joke, but the coldness in her voice cuts through the pleasantries. "You don't understand," he continues, leaning in slightly. "This marriage will give you everything you've ever wanted. Power, wealth, status. It's a small price to pay for everything your family stands to gain." Her stomach churns at his words, but before she can respond, a voice cuts through the conversation like a knife. "Enough!" It's Victor, her father, standing just behind them, his gaze like ice. His face is tight, his anger barely contained. "Eliza, stop. You are embarrassing yourself." Eliza turns to face him, her jaw clenched. "No, father. You're the one who's embarrassing yourself. You think you can control me like one of your business deals, but I'm not a commodity to be traded." Victor's eyes darken, his hand curling into a fist at his side. "You don't know what's at stake here. You have no idea the sacrifices I've made to give you this life, and you'll marry Graves because it's what's best for everyone. For the family." Her eyes burn with fury, the weight of years of repression finally spilling over. "I don't care about your deals, father. I care about my life, and I won't let you control it anymore." The room falls silent as father and daughter face off, the tension between them crackling in the air. In that moment, something shifts in Victor. For the first time, he sees his daughter, not as the pawn he's been manipulating, but as a woman with her own power, her own will. It terrifies him. He had always assumed Eliza would follow the path he laid out for her. He had built her life with such precision, believing she had no choice but to comply. But in her eyes, he sees something else now, a spark of independence, a refusal to be controlled. He realizes, with a sickening clarity, that he has underestimated her. She's not the girl who will simply fade into the background of his carefully constructed world. She's a force he can't control. For the first time, he understands that he is not the one holding the power in this relationship. He never was. Eliza has always been the one in control. The conversation ends with Victor storming off, his temper barely contained. But the damage is done. The walls between father and daughter have crumbled, and the world they've both lived in is beginning to unravel. Eliza's defiance has set off a chain of events that neither of them can predict. Her father's anger is matched only by her own resolve. This marriage, this life, none of it is her choice. But she's no longer willing to be a pawn in her father's game. With every passing hour, the stakes grow higher. Victor will not let Eliza defy him without consequences, and Senator Graves will stop at nothing to secure his future. But Eliza is no longer afraid. The true battle has only just begun, and she is ready to fight for her freedom, no matter the cost. The room feels suffocating. Each breath Eliza takes seems heavier than the last, as if the air itself is thickening around her. The evening has taken a turn she couldn't have anticipated. The engagement party, once a symbol of a father's triumph, now feels like a prison, her own personal gilded cage. And with every glance she exchanges with the guests, every false smile she forces, the weight of the lies they are all living under grows unbearable. Her father's cold eyes watch her from across the room, and she knows is waiting for her to break, waiting for her to fold into the role he's spent years preparing her for. But Eliza has already made up her mind. The silence between them is now a battle she intends to win. But even as she steels herself, something gnaws at her from within. She's no longer just fighting for her freedom, but for something much more dangerous, something that could tear apart the carefully constructed empire her father has built. She spots Senator Graves in the corner, laughing with a group of well-dressed elites. His smile is warm, but Eliza knows the truth. The smile hides a man who sees her as a stepping stone, a political asset. And yet, she's beginning to wonder if the tables could turn. What if she could use him instead of being used? The idea is intoxicating, and the stakes have never been higher. But the question is, who holds the real power here, the puppet master or the puppet? As she stands there, staring into the sea of familiar faces, she begins to feel a creeping sense of inevitability. This moment, this choice, is going to change everything. There's no going back. The fear that has gripped her father for so long, fear of losing control, of being exposed, begins to radiate outward, making its way to her. It's not the fear of losing a daughter, it's the fear of losing everything he's built. And Eliza understands, more than ever, that the stakes aren't just her life anymore. They are about to unravel the entire world her father has carefully curated. The tension in the air is palpable as she makes her way toward her father. The music, once a soft background hum, now feels like a heartbeat, steady, persistent, and impossibly loud in her ears. But as she approaches him, something shifts. He knows. He can feel it. The calmness in her movements, the defiant set of her jaw. She's not the same daughter who once looked up to him in reverence. She's someone else now, a force he's struggling to control. The truth is unveiled. Victor stands there, his face like granite, watching her approach. His heart pounds, a drumbeat of anxiety he can't escape. He thought he had her, that he had bent her to his will, but her silence, her steady composure, is breaking him. Eliza stops in front of him, her eyes hard with determination. She doesn't speak immediately. Instead, she takes a breath, long and slow, as if preparing herself for the moment she's been dreading and anticipating for years. Then, with a coolness that cuts through the tension in the room, she speaks. "You think you've controlled everything, Father," Eliza says, her voice steady but laced with a bitterness that Victor can't ignore. "But you've underestimated me." Victor's eyes narrow, the threat of anger rising in him. "What are you talking about, Eliza? This isn't the time for games." "Oh, but it is," Eliza responds, her lips curling into a smirk. "You've been playing this game for so long, haven't you? Pulling strings, building your empire, using people to get what you want. But you didn't count on one thing, you didn't count on me." The words hit Victor like a physical blow, a knot forming in his stomach. There's something dangerous in her eyes now, something he hasn't seen before, something that unsettles him. He's about to speak again, to remind her of her place, but Eliza cuts him off. "I'm not the weak little girl you thought I was," she continues, her voice growing stronger. "You thought you could use me, control me, sell me off to the highest bidder. But you were wrong." She takes a step closer, her gaze never wavering from his. "Because I know what you did. I know everything." Victor freezes. His pulse quickens. "What are you talking about?" The smile that flickers across Eliza's lips is cold. "I know about the deal you made with Senator Graves. I know how you sold your soul and mine just to get ahead. How you promised my hand in marriage as part of a bigger political scheme. You used me as a pawn in your game. But you forgot one thing, you never actually asked me what I wanted." Victor opens his mouth, but no words come out. His mind races, scrambling to make sense of what she's just said, but it's too late. The damage has already been done. Eliza steps back, eyes blazing. "And that's not all," she continues, the words coming faster now, as if she can't stop them. "I know you're hiding something, something far worse than any of this. You don't just want to control me, you want to control everyone. You're a monster, Father, and I won't be part of your plan anymore." Victor stands there, unable to speak. The words she's throwing at him don't just pierce him, they shatter the image of himself his spent years constructing. The guilt that rises within him is overwhelming, and for the first time, is not sure who the true monster is. Has he really become the villain in his own story? Eliza's words hang in the air like poison. Every word is a knife that digs deeper, a truth he's never been able to face. Victor is shaking now, his legs suddenly weak beneath him. It's as though the ground has been ripped out from under him. The weight of Eliza's words is suffocating. His mind races, but it can't catch up with the reality she's just presented. He feels his empire slipping away, piece by piece, and in the silence of the moment, the magnitude of what's been exposed sinks in. This is no longer just about a marriage, a deal, or political gain. This is about everything he's ever believed in crumbling before his eyes. His chest tightens as the truth settles over him like a heavy, oppressive blanket. The guilt he's carried for years now floods him all at once. He's the one who's destroyed his own family, not Eliza. He's the one who's made deals with men like Graves, sacrificed his daughter's happiness for power. He's the one who's manipulated every relationship he's ever had, all to climb higher and higher. But now, standing before him, Eliza is no longer the little girl who looked to him for approval. She's something else. She's strong, fierce, and full of purpose, and she's the one who's won. He's lost, and for the first time, is not sure how to fix it. The fallout between father and daughter is instantaneous. The bond they once shared is shattered beyond repair. Eliza stands in front of him, her eyes filled with contempt, and for the first time, Victor sees her not as his daughter, but as an adversary who has taken everything from him. "You're not a father," Eliza says, her voice trembling with a mix of anger and pain. "You never were. You're a liar and a thief, and I will never be a part of your world again." Victor stands frozen, his chest tight, his mind reeling. Everything he thought he controlled is now slipping away. Eliza isn't the victim anymore. She's the one with the power. The empire he built with so much effort, so much sacrifice, is starting to crumble, and the person responsible for it isn't his enemies or his rivals. It's his own daughter. The realization is devastating. Everything he's worked for has been built on lies. And now, standing before him, Eliza holds the key to its destruction. For the first time in his life, Victor realizes he's not the one with the power. He never was, and it's a truth that shatters him. The relationship between father and daughter is irrevocably changed. There is no going back now. The foundation of Victor's life has been destroyed by the one person he never thought would rise against him. Eliza is no longer a pawn in his game. She is the queen, and the world he built will never be the same again. Victor is haunted by the truth. The weight of his daughter's revelations presses down on him, seeping into every corner of his mind. The moments that once felt like triumphs now feel like twisted fragments of a life he no longer recognizes. The guilt gnaws at him like a relentless tide, pushing him further from the man he thought he was. Each day is a reminder of how far he has fallen. It was never supposed to be like this. He had envisioned his daughter's marriage to Senator Graves as the final piece of his grand plan, a move that would solidify his political influence and ensure his legacy. He had underestimated Eliza's strength, her ability to see through him. But now, every time he sees her, there's a palpable distance between them, a chasm that he knows can never be bridged. It's as if she's become a stranger, someone he no longer understands. Victor spends his nights sleepless, replaying every conversation, every decision he made, wondering where it all went wrong. How did his own daughter become his greatest adversary? He was the one who built everything, his empire, his reputation, his legacy, but now it's all crumbling, slipping through his fingers like sand. The people who once supported him are starting to distance themselves, his allies becoming distant acquaintances, and his enemies even more emboldened. The power he wielded with such certainty has been stripped away, and in its place, there's only emptiness. Victor's world begins to unravel in ways he never imagined. It's not just the loss of his daughter's loyalty that hurts, it's the collapse of everything he built. His empire, the one he spent years cultivating, now feels fragile, barely holding together. His business decisions are being undermined by those closest to him. He tries to pull strings, use his connections, but no one seems to be listening anymore. There are whispers in the corridors of power, murmurs that he's no longer the man he once was. His influence is waning, and the deals he's made with powerful men like Senator Graves now feel like hollow promises. What once seemed like a well-oiled machine of success has begun to falter, and with every failed meeting, every slipping alliance, the cracks become more visible. Even his personal life is a constant reminder of his failures. His wife, once a pillar of support, now avoids his gaze, retreating into silence. His son, who had always idolized him, now looks at him with a mix of disappointment and fear. Victor's reputation has been tarnished, and the stain will not come off. His daughter's betrayal, her defiance, has exposed him for who he really is, a man who sacrificed his own family for power, a man whose ego and ambition led him down a path of destruction. Victor cannot escape the consequences. He spends his days in meetings that are no longer about strategy but about salvaging what's left of his empire. He makes phone calls, pleads with old friends, promises them everything he has left, but his words fall on deaf ears. The silence that follows his calls is more painful than any rejection. No one is willing to stand by him anymore, and even those who do seem to be hedging their bets, unwilling to trust the man he's become. The antagonist's power. Eliza is no longer the meek daughter he once controlled. She has grown into something far more formidable, a woman who has taken the reins of her own destiny. The power has shifted. Where once she had been trapped in a life dictated by her father's ambitions, she now stands as the master of her own fate, and Victor is helpless in the face of her transformation. She no longer plays by his rules. Eliza is taking control, slowly and methodically dismantling everything he once held dear. Her influence is subtle at first, small acts of rebellion that leave him rattled, but over time, they grow more pronounced. She begins to win over people in his circles, speaking to them not with the desperation of a pawn but with the quiet authority of someone who understands the game better than anyone. Her presence at social gatherings once dominated by Victor now feels like a subtle challenge to his authority, as if she's quietly usurping his power, one conversation at a time. Victor watches, helpless, as she begins to pull the strings he used to hold. She doesn't need to fight him head-on anymore. She's won. She has outmaneuvered him. And it's not just his political career that's at risk, it's everything. Eliza knows how to play the game in a way that he never could have imagined. Where Victor once saw people as tools to be used, Eliza sees them as equals to be won over, and they respond to her in ways that make Victor feel like a relic of the past. She starts leveraging her own network of supporters, aligning herself with key figures in the political and business world. The very men he once relied on for support now listen to her. She doesn't even have to make demands. Her quiet confidence is enough. People are drawn to her, captivated by her strength and her sense of purpose, and as they begin to rally around her, Victor's influence diminishes. Where he once commanded respect, Eliza now commands loyalty. Where he once wielded fear, she wields admiration. It's a power dynamic that shifts imperceptibly at first, but once it gains momentum, there's no stopping it. Eliza has become the puppet master, and Victor is nothing more than a spectator to his own downfall. Victor's attempts to regain control are desperate, born out of sheer panic. He tries everything. He calls in old favors, makes promises he can't keep, and manipulates every situation he finds himself in. But it's all in vain. Nothing seems to have the same effect anymore. The people who once feared him now pity him. Those who once revered him now look at him with disdain. He tries to reach out to Eliza, pleading with her, begging her to reconsider. He apologizes, makes promises that sound hollow even to his own ears. But nothing gets through to her. She's no longer the girl who once idolized him. She's the woman who has learned to wield power in ways he never taught her, and she doesn't need him anymore. In fact, every attempt he makes to regain her trust only drives her further away. "I did what I had to do, Eliza," he says one night, desperation lacing his voice as he faces her across the dinner table. "You don't understand. Everything I did was for you, for our family. This was always the plan. It was always going to be like this." Eliza looks at him, her expression unreadable. "No, Father," she responds, her voice cold and calm. "You didn't do this for me. You did this for yourself. You used me as a pawn in your game, and now you want me to fix everything. But I'm done. I'm not your pawn anymore. And I'm not going to be the one to save you." Victor's throat tightens as the finality of her words hits him. The walls he built around himself, the walls that once protected him, are now closing in. The empire he spent decades building has crumbled. His daughter is no longer his to control. The people he once trusted have turned away. And he's left alone, desperately clinging to the remnants of a life that's slipping through his fingers. But no matter how hard he tries, he knows now, it's too late. The consequences of his actions, of his choices, have caught up with him, and there's nothing he can do to undo them. The world he built has fallen apart, and with it, the man he thought he was. The scene closes with Victor standing alone, the weight of his world crashing down around him. The man who once controlled everything is now a shadow of his former self, desperate to hold onto something, anything, but unable to find anything solid to grasp. In the distance, he sees Eliza, standing tall and strong, a symbol of everything he could never become. The room is dark, save for the faint glow of city light spilling in through the towering windows. The air is thick with tension, the kind that precedes a storm. Victor sits at his desk, staring blankly at the papers before him. The numbers, the contracts, the agreements that once symbolized his power and control now feel meaningless. He's lost more than he ever thought possible. His allies, his reputation, and most painfully, his daughter. The silence of the room is broken by the sound of footsteps echoing through the marble halls. He knows who it is before she even appears. Eliza steps into the room, her presence commanding, her movements deliberate. She's no longer the girl he once controlled. She's a force of her own, a woman who has taken her destiny into her own hands. She doesn't wait for him to speak. Instead, she walks to the center of the room and looks at him, her gaze steady and unflinching. "This is it, Father," she says, her voice calm but laced with finality. "The end of your empire. The end of your control." Victor stands, his fists clenched at his sides. "Eliza, you don't understand what you're doing. Everything I built for this family. For you, for me," she snaps, her voice rising. "You built this for yourself. You used me. You manipulated everyone around you to serve your own ambition. Don't pretend this was ever about anything other than your ego." The words sting, but Victor refuses to back down. "You're throwing everything away. You don't realize the damage you're doing. This isn't just about me. It's about this family, about our legacy." "No, Father," Eliza says, her voice steady again. "It's about control, and it's over. You can't control me anymore." The confrontation escalates, their voices echoing through the room like thunder. Victor tries to reason with her, to plead with her, but Eliza is unwavering. Every word she speaks feels like a blow, stripping away the last vestiges of his authority. For the first time in his life, Victor feels powerless. The argument reaches its breaking point when Eliza reveals the final piece of her plan. She's not just walking away from the marriage, from the family. She's dismantling everything her father built. She's already contacted the authorities, exposing the shady deals and illegal activities that propped up Victor's empire. The once pristine image of the Moretti family is about to be destroyed, and there's nothing Victor can do to stop it. "You think you can survive this?" Victor demands, his voice trembling with rage and fear. "You think you can tear me down and walk away unscathed?" "I'm not walking away, Father," Eliza says. "I'm walking into my own life, one that isn't defined by your greed and corruption." Victor's world collapses in that moment. The empire he spent his entire life building is gone, reduced to rubble by the one person he never expected to betray him. The weight of it all, the lies, the manipulations, the sacrifices, comes crashing down on him. He sinks into his chair, his body heavy with defeat. Eliza watches him, her expression unreadable. She doesn't feel joy or satisfaction in his downfall, only a deep sense of release. For the first time in her life, she feels free. Victor, meanwhile, is left with nothing. His allies have abandoned him, his reputation is in ruins, and his daughter, the only person he ever truly cared about, has turned her back on him. The man who once controlled everything is now a shadow of his former self, broken and defeated. As the silence settles over the room, Victor reflects on the choices that led him here. He thinks back to the man he was, the ambitious young entrepreneur who believed he could conquer the world. He remembers the deals, the betrayals, the sacrifices he made in the name of success. At the time, it all seemed worth it. But now, sitting alone in the wreckage of his empire, he sees the truth. He was never building a legacy. He was building a house of cards, one that was destined to fall the moment someone dared to push back. He thought he could control everyone around him, but in the end, it was his own hubris that destroyed him. Eliza stands by the window, looking out at the city. Her heart is heavy, but there's a sense of peace as well. She knows this wasn't just about taking down her father, it was about reclaiming her own life. She thinks about the girl she used to be, the one who was so desperate for her father's approval, so willing to sacrifice her own happiness to make him proud. That girl is gone now, replaced by a woman who knows her worth and refuses to be controlled. Victor breaks the silence, his voice barely above a whisper. I thought I was protecting you, he says. I thought I was giving you the life you deserved. You weren't protecting me, Eliza says, her voice soft but firm. You were controlling me. There's a difference. Victor nods slowly, his shoulders slumping under the weight of his realization. I was wrong. About everything. Yes, Eliza says. You were. For a moment, there's nothing but silence between them. Then, Victor looks up at her, his eyes filled with a sadness she's never seen before. What happens now? Eliza turns to face him, her expression calm. Now, I live my life. And you figure out how to live with what you've done. Victor nods, the finality of her words sinking in. He knows there's no redemption for him, no way to undo the damage he's caused. He's lost everything, and now he has to face the consequences. Closing reflection. As Eliza walks out of the room, Victor is left alone with his thoughts. He thinks about the choices he made, the people he hurt, and the family he destroyed in his quest for power. He's no longer the man who thought he could control everything. He's a broken man, forced to live with the consequences of his greed and arrogance. Eliza, meanwhile, steps into the night, the cool air a stark contrast to the heat of the confrontation. She feels a sense of freedom she's never known before, a weight lifted from her shoulders. She doesn't know what the future holds, but for the first time in her life, it's hers to decide. The story ends not with triumph, but with a sense of quiet resolution. The battle between father and daughter is over, and while neither of them emerged unscathed, they are both irrevocably changed. Victor has lost everything, and Eliza has gained the one thing she always wanted, her freedom. Closure of the story. And so, what started as a power play, a father trying to control his daughter's destiny, ended in devastation. In his quest to secure power and wealth, Victor thought he could manipulate everyone around him. He believed that by forcing Eliza into a marriage with a powerful politician, he could preserve the Moretti name, sustain his empire, and maintain control over the very world he had created. But in the end, it wasn't his empire, his business, or his status that defined him. It was his relationship with his daughter, the one person he thought he could control but ultimately couldn't. Eliza's journey wasn't just about breaking free from the chains her father tried to place on her. It was about reclaiming her own voice, her own power, and her own future. The events that unfolded not only tore down Victor's empire but also changed the course of Eliza's life. She chose to walk away from the path that was set for her, from the man who had held her hostage in his ambition. And in doing so, she exposed the very heart of his manipulation, bringing everything he'd worked for crashing down. Victor, now a shadow of the man he once was, is left to confront the consequences of his actions. His empire is no more, his family is broken, and his daughter, the one person he tried to control, has outsmarted him in ways he never anticipated. The question remains, will he ever recover from this fall, or is he destined to live with the guilt of what is done? For Eliza, the future is uncertain, but for the first time in her life, it's hers to shape. She's free, and with that freedom comes a chance for redemption, not just for herself, but for all the women who have ever been controlled, manipulated, and silenced. What do you think? Can someone like Victor ever change, or is he doomed to live with the guilt of his actions forever? Is Eliza's path toward freedom the ultimate victory, or is there more yet to unfold? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave your comments below, let's continue the conversation. And if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like this video, share it with those who need to hear it, and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. Because sometimes, the most unexpected stories are the ones that leave the biggest impact. Until next time, take care, and remember, the power to change your story is always in your hands.